saw people at the memorial service for Regina's mother.
Yeah. Yeah, I was out of town. I
Remember names.
yeah, it's hard enough. And this year, it's been made it even worse. Hi.
They did do the unlikely that I'm doing on this. Okay here? You know, front, you want to go front
Okay. I know all I saw in that. I just thought I was going to kind of trailer to trailer. Unless you, it's a 6-foot piece. It's 11 inches. So I think I'll just play. And then if they want us to settle down, they will. And I'll just start playing music. We'll say
Thank you, Jackie Robbins.
That was Elgar, and that was a reduction from full orchestration to 3 parts, 3 cellos, which is not written out. I just kind of play along with myself.
We love it. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Stuart, Florida. Today is October 3rd, 2021, and my name is Janet Grote, and looks like I'm going to be a worship associate today. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, races, ages, and backgrounds. It's good to see all my vaccinated friends here in the sanctuary, although we are also on YouTube. If you found us on YouTube, go to our website, tcuuc.org, to sign up to get our Friday online newsletters. And there's also a link to our national association, so you could learn more about Unitarian Universalism. Visitors. Well, March. You aren't exactly a visitor, but we don't know you. Can you come up and introduce yourself? Are you comfortable? Margie? No. Okay. Sorry. Announcements. Join us this Tuesday, not Thursday, as somehow got in the newsletter wrong. We are meeting at Stewart Memorial, Veterans Memorial Park, downtown Stewart, the first and third Tuesdays, high noon for a brown bag lunch. An important announcement is, do remember, particularly those of you who are watching on YouTube that are in Stewart, please plan to come to church on the 31st, as we were going to have a celebration of life for the Johnsons, Vince and Enid. We are going to have fabulous music. Not only are we having Jackie Robbins, but Bruce Ruby will be back for this service, so it should be a wonderful celebration. And Judy Watt has an announcement. She's going to step up to the... Yeah, take your mask off.
Yes, good morning. For those who might not have seen Friday's newsletter, Gail McCarthy, who is a member of our congregation, has been downsizing and going into another assisted living. Her work right now is at the Lighthouse Gallery down in Tequestra, the Tequestra-Jupiter area. And they're having a reception this Thursday night, October 7th, for her. I think it's at 5 o'clock.
4 to 6. 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
All right, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Lighthouse Arts Center.
Yes, the Lighthouse Arts Center in Tequestra, yes, for people that have been there before or not. It's a beautiful small space, and I'm sure her work is going to be gorgeous. So please come. Thank you.
And we must remember, thanks to those who helped us with the service, our greeters, especially Bud Sterling, and our ushers, and our host, Karina Poloni. I don't think I saw Chris. Where's Chris? He's always in the background somewhere. He is our tech wizard, and he so graciously volunteers for that. Reverend Carol Yorke will be in our pulpit today, and she is going to light the chalice. Maybe. into this circle of community. Come into this sacred space. Be not tentative. Bring your whole self. Bring the joy that makes your heart sing. Bring your kindness and your compassion. Bring also your sorrow, your pain. Bring your brokenness and your disappointments. Spirit of love and mystery, help us recognize the spark of the divine that resides within each one of us. May we know the joy of wholeness. May we know the joy of being together. These opening words I've edited, but it's from a writing by Ashley Horan. How is it with your soul? This is a question that John Wesley, Anglican priest and founder of Methodism, was known to ask participants in small reflection groups. So, beloveds, how is it with your souls? If your response to that question is anything like mine, I want you to pause, take a deep breath, and we'll hum some songs. Feel the force of gravity pulling us all towards the same center. You are loved. Your work and your life matter. You are not alone. You are part of we, a great cloud of witnesses, living and dead, who have insisted that this beautiful, broken world of ours is a blessing worthy of both deep gratitude and fierce protection. Our ancestors and our descendants are beckoning us, compelling us towards greater connection, greater compassion, greater commitment to one another and to the earth. Let us throw ourselves into the holy work of showing up again and again to be part of building a world of which we dream. Okay, we are going to have hymn number 100. I've got Peace Like a River, but of course we need to hum through our Mass.
We'll do three Humphreys.
Now it's time for our affirmation. We're going to recite our affirmation. I think we can speak in our Mass for the first part, and we're going to hum the second. Love of this church and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We're going to share our joys and sorrows. I'm going to speak first, but after that, I'll ask you to step up to the microphone, tell us your name, and move a stone in our symbolic river to mark each joy and sorrow. Try to keep it personal and brief. And the camera is up there, so you'll want to say hi to our YouTubers. But first, I'm going to ask Pam to move a stone for Chico. We had to put down an old chow chow that we'd had 18 months. We inherited him from one of our churchgoers, and we had him 18 months, but of course we fell in love with him in 18 minutes, and it is always so hard. Is there anyone else for joys and concerns? Looks like everybody's good today. How's that? Here comes Pat.
I'm Pat Burt, and it just prompted me to come up when I heard about your loss of Chico. Yesterday, a new pet love was started. I helped my son adopt a kitty at PetSmart, and my son with a mental disability, that's an extremely important step for him. So I'm very happy for him and Elmo.
That is truly a joy. For those whose joys or sorrows are too private to share, know that our hearts are with you, and also for those of you on YouTube, a stone for you also. Now here's Reverend Carol Yorke.
Good morning. Good morning. Some familiar faces to me and some not so familiar faces to me. Welcome. My reading this morning is by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. Some of you may know this. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for, and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for your adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals, or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal, and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand on the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the full moon, yes! Doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. Here ends the reading. Let us join together in the spirit of meditation. A few words and then we'll meditate in silence. Let this be a place of warm and gentle silence. The silence that soothes and comforts the wounded. The silence that yields insights into heart and soul. The silence that calms. The silence that listens. The silence that speaks. The silence that renews. Let this be a place of warm and gentle silence together. Amen, and blessed be.
Oops. Well, did you believe we have a hymn? Uh, nope.
Yes.
Yes.
Hum Spirit of Life.
Oh, hum Spirit of Life. I should know this routine.
I will give you a little introduction and then you can hum the first verse and hum the second. Actually, just hum the first time through and then hum the words in your head, please.
Ah, beautiful. Even though it's so familiar to us, that was just wonderful. Thanks. Now we're going to do our offering. Pam and Dave are going to pass the plate for us. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. We pass the plate during our worship service to make a community expression for thanks of the blessing of abundance, to visibly bring in the harvest at its most cherished hour of our week. Our offering says that the act of giving is as essential to our spiritual well-being as anything else we do here on Sunday mornings. The morning offering is received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. Now, Reverend Carol Yorke.
Love. Imagine that, a whole sermon on something that is not a Hallmark card fit for Valentine's Day. A song like the Beatles produced, love, love, love. It ain't that. But where will we find something on love that is not those things? Well, there's the Hebrew Bible, there's Jesus, there's the Buddha, there's Martin Luther King Jr., there's Karen Armstrong. I'm going to begin today with the Buddha. While he was working toward enlightenment, he devised a meditation excuse me, that made him conscious of the positive emotions of friendship, compassion, joy, and even-mindedness that lay dormant in his mind. He then directed this immeasurable love to the ends of the earth. Later, he would teach his monks to do that same thing. When your mind is filled with love, send it in one direction, then send it in a second direction, then a third direction, then a fourth direction, and then above, and then below. Identify with everything without hatred, resentment, anger, or enmity. This mind of love, he said, is very wide. It grows immeasurably and eventually is able to embrace the whole world. Now that's a meditation. How many of you think you could do that? Take the love that's inside you and send it out into all those directions. I charge you with doing that at least once. Now, Karen Armstrong's book is called 12 Steps to a Compassionate Life. She and it were featured at the Ware lecture at General Assembly several years ago. And she spoke about how she uses the 12-step model for working toward compassion. She says that we are addicted to our hatreds and to our prejudices because they make us feel better. Think about that for a minute. We're addicted to our own hatreds and prejudices because they make us feel better. I'm not going to go through all her 12 steps, just the last one, which is love your enemies. In some ways, this has become so basic to me because I try to make it a part of my basic philosophical and theological orientation. And it is so basic to our Unitarian Universalist values. The whole idea of love, the whole philosophy of love, siding with love, a public advocacy campaign that seeks to harness love's power to stop oppression. Look at marriage equality, with Massachusetts and Vermont and Iowa being the first states in 2015 to legalize marriages among lesbians and gays. By siding with love, we, Unitarian Universalists, sped up the realization of equality and dignity for more people in our country. Unfortunately, it's begun to be whittled away. The tides have shifted. But love will win out over fear. Love will win out over bigotry. Love will win out over homophobia. If you have ever sided with love, what motivated you? What inspired you? Can we side with love rather than being a detached observer of love? Can we side with love rather than having a discussion group about love? Certainly we know, actually, I shouldn't assume, that all major faith traditions have a version of love your enemies. There are others, but I bet most of us heard it from the Christian tradition. Now, this is Jesus speaking. You have heard that it has been said, Thou shalt love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, this is what Jesus spoke like this all the time. You have heard it said this, but I say to you that there's a better way. He did that all the time. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse or persecute you. Do good to them that hate you. Pray for them that despitefully use you. Return to no one evil for evil, that you may be the children of your Father who is in heaven. Certainly these are great words, words lifted to cosmic proportions. And over the centuries, many people have argued that this is an extremely difficult command, especially when Israel and Palestine were bombing the hell out of one another, and not when this country faces domestic terrorism, according to lots of writers and government officials. Many would go so far as to say that it just isn't possible to move out into the actual practice of this glorious command. They would go on to say that this is just additional proof that Jesus was an impractical idealist who never quite came down to earth. So the arguments abound. But far from being an impractical idealist, Jesus has become the practical realist. The words of this text reach our eyes with a new urgency. Far from being the pious injunction of a utopian dreamer, this command is an absolute necessity for the survival of our civilization. Yes, it is love that will save our world and our civilization. Love even for enemies. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. If anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. These are hard sayings. These words of Jesus sound at first like the slogans of a soft religion, an invitation to walk all over me, ones that elicit the cultured term, duh. But surely these teachings can't be absolute. We know there is evil in this world that won't stop with a turned cheek. And if you read the Christian Gospels carefully, Jesus most certainly did not get pushed around. What does it mean then to return to no person evil for evil? I think it has something to do with the nature of evil itself, which is a poison. Return to no person evil for evil. So what are the alternatives? And then what happens? Here's where the story of Isaac, Jacob, and Esau in the Hebrew Bible, in the book of Genesis, has always spoken to me. I'll bet some of you have an old Bible sitting around in a dusty corner somewhere. Dig it out and read this story for yourself. These stories are wonderfully full of all kinds of things for us to chew on, argue about, and interpret. Many of you may know the broad outlines of Jacob's story, the son of Isaac and Rebekah. Jacob was the twin of Esau, born moments later, but second born nevertheless, a fact very important to the story. As Isaac lay dying years later, the birthright was intended to go to the elder twin, Esau. Yeah. A rather hirsute man, a tradition of those days in which the firstborn becomes the leader of the family and receives a double inheritance. Those who heard this story in ancient times knew well the meaning of birthright. Who knows why Mother Rebecca conspired with Jacob to trick Esau? But it happened. Jacob puts an animal hide on his neck and the back of his hands to make the blind, at that point, the blind Isaac think he was embracing his son Esau. It was a mean trick. It was evil. It was more than one car cutting off another, more than road rage. Now, we only have time to leap ahead in the story, but there is much more trickery and evil that takes place in this story. From the lens of the 21st century, this is one big dysfunctional family. Esau realizes that he has been cheated, and he vows to kill Jacob. Evil is about to be returned for evil. Mother of the year, Rebecca, hears the threat, and Jacob is sent away to her brother Laban, somewhere off in the distance. The story of Jacob unfolds there with Rachel and Leah, and 20 years pass. Now Esau is making his way back to Jacob, making his way back to perhaps to right this old, terrible wrong. And Jacob is enormously fearful that Esau still has murder on his mind. And this fear is confirmed when Jacob learns that Esau is approaching in the company of 400 men. A little overkill, don't you think? Just before Jacob meets Esau and the 400, he has spent the night at a place he later named Peniel, crossing over the huge gorge at the river. And there, in the midst of this geographic beauty, in the night, he has wrestled with no less than an angel, we are told. A terrible night of something beyond dreams that has left Jacob limping in the early morning light. Perhaps somebody here has had nightmares that cause you to stumble when you get up in the morning. They were so terrible. And who among us would not have terrible dreams, knowing that in the morning we will face someone and 400 men, all with murder on their mind? Consider what Jacob has done to Esau, how both of their lives have been irrevocably changed by these actions, and that now is the moment to face up to these consequences. Return to no person evil for evil. Esau approaches. Jacob bows down. And what happens? We realize what happens. The totally unexpected happens. Esau does not attack Jacob. He embraces him. He doesn't hit him. He hugs him. He doesn't kill him. He kisses him. And then they cry together. No one would have predicted this outcome. In fact, up until now, the storyteller has never put Esau in a good light at all. It would have surprised no one if Esau had done damage to Jacob, taken his possessions, killed his wives and children. Who knows what Esau might have had on his mind? But this part of the story ends with a hug and a kiss and some tears. It's a transforming moment. And I think this is what happens when we are able to enter our own unexpected moments and return to no person evil for evil. There is no question that Esau did the magnanimous thing here. We would have said at the very least, Esau could have just gone on with his life, just done nothing. No evil, nothing. Just stayed away. Esau could have fulfilled the admonition to not return evil for evil by simply ranting and raving at Jacob, using therapeutically correct I statements. I am hurt. I am angry. Mom always liked you best. Rant and rave, Esau. No one will blame you. This would not have been an evil thing. In fact, it might have felt great. A catharsis for 20 years worth of bitterness. An edgy, but not necessarily evil thing would have been for Esau to take Jacob to court. Hire one of those attorneys who advertise on TV. One of those attorneys who specialize in personal injury cases. This was a deception, after all. Mental anguish was suffered. Esau could have sued for double damages, and we would not have blamed him. This would not have been returning evil for evil. But do you understand what happened instead? Something very unusual happened. Esau simply let it all go. In doing so, he preserved his own spirit. He did not let the poison of evil enter his system. Instead, he decided to love Jacob. The most disarming action he could possibly have taken. He hugged him. He kissed him. Esau did not return to Jacob evil for evil. He loved him instead. What a moment. What a guy. Now I'm going to turn to a sermon given by Martin Luther King Jr. in 1957 for words on loving your enemies. We find a rather interesting take on that. Listen. Now first, let us deal with this question, which is the practical question. How do you go about loving your enemies? And by the way, that's the question I leave you with today when this is all over. I think the first thing is this, he says. In order to love your enemies, you must begin by analyzing yourself. And I'm sure that seems strange to you, that I start out telling you this morning that you love your enemies by beginning with a look at self. It seems to me, says King, that this is the first and foremost way to come to an adequate discovery as to the how of this situation. Now, I'm aware of the fact, he goes on, that some people will not like you, not because of something that you have done to them, but they just won't like you. I'm quite aware of that. Some people aren't going to like the way you walk. Some people aren't going to like the way you talk. Some people aren't going to like you because you can do your job better than they can do theirs. Some people aren't going to like you because other people like you and because you're popular and because you're well liked, they aren't going to like you. Some people aren't going to like you because your hair is a little shorter than theirs, or your hair is a little longer than theirs. Some people aren't going to like you because your skin is a little bit brighter than theirs. And others aren't going to like you because your skin is a little darker than theirs. So some people aren't going to like you. They're going to dislike you. Not because of something that you've done to them, but because of various jealous reactions and other reactions that are so prevalent in human nature. But after looking at these things and admitting these things, we must face the fact that an individual might dislike us because of something that we've done deep down in the past. Some personality attribute that we possess. Something that we've done in the past and we've forgotten all about it. But it was that something that aroused the hate response within the individual. That's why I say begin with yourself. There might be something within you that arouses the tragic hate response in the other individual. He goes on in much more detail, but I just want to share one more thing that an individual must do in seeking to love his enemy is to discover the element of good in his enemy. And every time you begin to hate that person or think of hating that person, realize that there is some good there and look at those good points, which will overbalance the bad points. Another way then, this is still King speaking, that you love your enemy is this. When the opportunity presents itself for you to defeat your enemy, that is the time which you must not do it. There will come a time, in many instances, when the person who hates you the most, the person who has misused you the most, the person who has gossiped about you the most, the person who has spread false rumors about you most, there will come a time when you will have an opportunity to defeat that person. It might be in terms of recommendation for a job, might be in terms of helping that person to make some move in life. That's the time you must not do it. That is the meaning of love. In the final analysis, love is not this sentimental something that we talk about. It's not merely emotional something. Love is creative, understanding, goodwill, for it is the refusal to defeat any individual. When you rise to the level of love, of its great beauty and power, you seek only to defeat evil systems. Individuals who happen to be caught up in that system you love, but you seek to defeat the system. It's the end of King's sermon. And this is what Jesus means, I think, in this very passage when he says, love your enemy. It's significant that he does not say, like your enemy. Like is that sentimental something, an affectionate something. There are a lot of people that I have found it difficult to like. I don't like what they do. I don't like what they say about me and other people. I don't like their attitudes. I don't like some of the things they're doing. I don't like them. But Jesus says, love them. And love is greater than like. Love is understanding, redemptive goodwill for all people, so that you love everybody because God loves them. You refuse to do anything that will defeat an individual because you have agape in your soul. And here you come to the point that you love the individual who does the evil deed while hating the deed that the person does. I'm sure many of us have grown up with that teaching. This is what Jesus means when he says, love your enemies. This is the way to do it. Says King, when the opportunity presents itself, when you can defeat the enemy, you must not do it. All of us can cite the prayer, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be love on earth, and let it begin with me. Can you love your enemies? First of all, do you have enemies? Thinking back to King's statements about those who don't like you for some reason, guess we'd all sound pretty paranoid if we started an enemies list, like two of our former presidents. Do you have enemies? Can you love them? This may be the hardest thing for any of us to do. You think? Can you do it? Can you make a start? I believe that together, in our Unitarian Universalist churches and congregations, that we can help each other love and forgive and become the best human beings that we can be. May it be so. Amen.
I believe we have a hymn.
A hymn.
A hymn. Love will guide us.
Love will guide us.
Number 131 in your hymnal. Follow along and hum loudly, please.
Our closing words. As far as our love flows, and as far as our hope grows, as far as our yearning goes, we are no farther from one another. Go in peace, gentle people. Amen.
And before the prelude, I have one more announcement. For those of you who are in the sanctuary, I need help. Our book sales on the pew has somehow really gotten out of hand. There's a ton of books in there. I set that up originally as a fundraiser and also for a conversation during coffee hour. And of course, we aren't having coffee hour now. So about a month ago, I edited the books there that would hopefully be fresh and of interest to our members, but somehow, maybe our groups that are now joining us, there is way too many books. I can't handle it anymore. So I'm asking you to please go into Heston Hall. I've got some bags there. Grab some books, take them to your favorite charity. If by chance you happen to get a book that you like and read, drop a few bucks in the plate next week. But please help me move these books. I'm going to take the books in the boxes and set them aside until we hopefully one day have a real coffee hour again. Thanks. Thank you.